Lex,
Gray.
how does it feel to be retired at 30?
It feels amazing, but also it feels like a dream. A good
Mm.
dream though, not the one you want to wake up from.
Give me two or three of the best aspects of you being able to have time and location freedom at your age.
So I would say freedom is always my number one top thing that I think encompasses everything that we should all seek in life. And within that, I feel is my other reason. So one more reason would be that you're no longer in a cage. So you're able to go where you want, when you want to go, and you don't have anybody telling you that you can't do it like you typically have when you have a standard job. And even if you have a job, there's nothing wrong with that, but to at least have the flexibility to be able to leave the job when you want is a game changer.
Now, tell the people how you got there and how long it took you guys to get there.
So basically, we started off with what they call like house hacking. Whatever you call it is basically a strategy where you start off getting somebody else to pay your mortgage for you. So you're starting off with being able to live somewhere for free. So we started with duplexes. So my first duplex I got in 2017. And from there, things started to go off to the right path because automatically I had a free place to live and automatically somebody was helping me pay for my investment. So that first one, I say in the market that we were in at the time, probably took us a little under a year. Took me under a year to find it. And then since then, for what we have now, it's taken about 7 years to build ourselves to the point where we are now.
For the first property, so that you were what, 22, 23?
22.
22. Okay, can you give us the numbers behind it?
Yeah, so we live in a smaller town. So that property that I got at the time was $87,500. I remember it
87,000.
down.
Okay. How much is it worth now?
It's worth about 200.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah, that's what this estimate says.
Okay. So let's say
Yeah.
even if it's a little bit below that, at least
Yeah.
180. So you're at
Yeah, at
least
least.
100K up.
Yep. And I'd have seen comparable properties sell for 200, so it might be accurate.
Okay. All right. All right. So how much were you able to rent out the other unit for?
So when I got there, it already had a tenant there. So at the
Oh, okay.
time, yeah, at the time that was about 700 and $750. That was already what the rent was renting for. It was already what the place was renting for. So I kept her rent the same for a little while before I'd increased it. I wanted to give her like some notice. And yeah, so it was like 750, but it was below market value, but it came with a tenant. So I kept her there for a little bit.
Okay. Okay. And how much were your total payments on the property?
It was around the same. So it was around that 750 range. It was like
Okay.
right there where I didn't have to pay anything, but I didn't make anything on that first one before I raised the rent, that is.
Okay. So you have to live there for free.
Yes. Yep.
Uh, that's a win. All right. So you're up 100K plus an equity. You live there for free. Now, when you moved out, how much did you rent out your unit for?
1100.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
That's some solid numbers right there.
Yeah.
That is some solid numbers, man. And you said it took you a year to find it. So some people get discouraged, Lex, if they can't find a property in 2 weeks or 2 months or 4 months.
Yeah.
Why do people quit so early in the game?
Because it's one of those things where you have to have faith about it because obviously you can't see it. Everybody wants to like, okay, now I'm ready to get a house. Now I'm pre-approved. So you just want the house to be there. That's sometimes how you end up getting a bad deal if you just want to get something that's available on the market. So I believe a lot of people give up. And I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to give up and literally just go for a single family because this was a duplex. I wanted to do that as well. I was getting tired of it. I was like, man, nothing is coming up. But it always comes up. If you just looking for that thing and you're consistently, I was looking every day, all day, like just several times every second I got, I was looking for a property, different platforms. So it can be discouraging because you don't know when it'll come. When you can't see it, you wonder if it will come. But if you keep looking, it will.
All right, Lex, you've accomplished financial freedom at 30. Do you consider yourself a minimalist?
No,
Okay. Do you consider yourself luxury?
no.
Okay. What do you consider yourself?
I'm just a freedomist, if that's a word.
Okay. There we have a new word.
Yeah,
Lex
new
the
word.
freedomist. Okay.
The freedomist, yep. I don't get into a lot of different brands. I don't get into certain things to keep up a certain image for other people. What I desire to do is the things that I truly desire to do. So the reason why I say I'm not a minimalist is because some people might look at it as frivolous or a waste of money to travel. I love traveling, so I spend money on traveling. Do I spend $100 on a t-shirt? No, I don't. Do I spend $1,000 on shoes? No, I don't. I haven't seen any shoes that I would want for that price. But we have spent thousands of dollars on certain trips because that's what we desire to do. That's what really makes us happy. So we just spend the money. I use the money for things that I actually want to do. So that's why I say I'm a freedomist.
Okay, okay. So no Fendi, but you'll go on a luxury trip. Can you
Yes.
give us the last 2 to 3 trips you've been on?
Okay, so little small trip. We just went to Virginia. That probably was 2 weeks ago. And
Mhm.
then 2 weeks before that, we was in Atlanta. We was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And then a month before that, we was in Kenya and Tanzania on the continent of Africa.
You were there for a while.
Yeah, we was there for a whole quarter of the year. So 3 months we spent, literally lived there for 3 months. So that was like one of our biggest trips that we couldn't even have dreamed of taking several years ago.
Man, you were in an island too. Weren't you guys in an island last year or two ago as well?
Oh yeah, we've been to Mexico, Jamaica, Virgin Islands for sure.
And I asked those questions just to give people the comparison because literally, and not saying anything's wrong with it, but a new car or two can add an extra 10 to 15 years onto your working life
Yeah, that's true.
and your
That's
career.
true.
So I want people just to think about, okay, which one's more important to them if they can't do both? What's your take on that?
I feel the same. So I ain't gonna lie, I got a new car on accident, and not recently, but in 2015 because I had a car. Like I'm the kind of person that I ride the car till the rear wheels fall off.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
car broke down, so I had at that time. This was in 2015 before I really had established credit. So I ended up getting a new car because I had to. It was hard for me to get a used car because the resale value is different. Either way, I got one, and I wasn't happy with the payment, but I am a saver. So though I'm not a minimalist, I am a saver. So I was able to pay it off probably like within 2 years. And so to me, it's just not getting a car because you want to look good in it. I say get the car that you would get if nobody saw you driving that car. So what car do you truly want? I just wanted just a regular car. I'm not gonna lie, I wanted a push button start. I got the push button start. It's nothing crazy nowadays, but I really would have rather keep my used car, but sometimes it's not feasible. And with the way I am, I don't like to deal with car maintenance. So it worked out because I still had that same car. And I told the car dealers, man, they said, so when do you think you'll be trading this car in? I said, never. And they thought I was playing. But every time they call me like, hey, you want to trade your car? No, my car is paid off. So I'm not trading it in to get another car payment. So
How many miles do you have on your car?
maybe 60,000.
I call that a win. So you buy a new car, but you ride it till what? It's what, 10 years old?
It is 10 years old, so I got low miles. I got low miles.
That is a win. So what do your days look like now? You have a wonderful daughter. How old is she?
She's almost 2. So she'll
Almost
be
2.
2 literally this month on the 24th.
Okay, so what's your average day? What does the average day look like for you and Derek? Derek's her
Well,
husband, by the way.
oh yeah, Derek's my husband. So on average, we work out on opposite days. So like we have a small little gym at our house, and then we got a gym membership. So wake up, go to the gym, or we work out at home. And I cook a lot. So I prep breakfast.
Really?
And then
Okay.
yep, I cook a lot. So I prep breakfast. I got really like a lot of hobbies. So I have a lot of hobbies. So I have music that I work on. What else do I do? I do so much stuff, Dre, but I basically do a
You
lot
have
of
a
hobbies.
YouTube channel?
Oh yeah, I got a YouTube channel and I've been like dibbling dabbling and gardening. So I now that's a part of my schedule too, is I got some things growing out in the greenhouse. And then of course we work on our business. So we do our content, we edit our videos, and that's if we're at home, and if we're traveling, it's like a different schedule.
What do you cook?
So we're vegetarians, technically like vegans. So vegan dishes, like today I made some, I guess you would call them like a sausage patty. I made
Mm,
those, and then we make this kind of vegan egg, which is made like a mung bean. So I make that for breakfast a lot of mornings, and I have a little yogurt bowl that I make,
okay.
smoothie bowls, all kinds of stuff.
There's a debate that people have between is it cheaper to cook your own food or to buy and order takeout? What's your thoughts?
It's definitely cheaper to cook your own food, in
Okay.
my experience, because we'll spend like we went to dinner and spent like $75 just on two meals and two appetizers. And that's just like a average restaurant, not even like one of the high scale ones. And that would at least gave us food for about a week, the
Mm,
$75. So I definitely feel like it's cheaper to cook yourself.
okay. And definitely healthier.
Yeah, healthier. That's one of the main reasons we do it. It's cool to save money. I'm a saver too. But like a lot of the things don't have the ingredients that we eat. So that's why I cook and prepare a lot of things from scratch. I make most of our foods from scratch.
Someone it comes to this is, you know what, I like Lex. That's cool. Let's say, Lex, I want to buy my first property in a year. I don't know where to start. Can you give them like 3 to 5 action steps?
Yeah, I would say first start saving money. And I would say that because saving money is good for any situation. Some people are waiting for a time to save and be like, I don't have nothing. I don't see no property now and I'm not pre-approved. You're never going to be mad at having extra money saved up. So that's, I don't even care if you haven't made the plan to buy a house. There's no reason you shouldn't be saving extra money that you have. So saving is the first one and a big one. The second one would be determining what kind of property that you would want. So that would be like for due to your family size, how many bedrooms do you need? Like what neighborhood do you want to live in? Things like that. And I would say the third thing would be to determine what your budget would be. Like how much of a monthly payment can you afford, which would be able to help you to decide what range. Of course, when you go forward with the process, you'll be able to get a clearer picture, but I think those are some good steps to go forward and start with that.
All right. Is it ever better to rent over buy? Well, ever is a broad word, but typically, some people say that your home isn't your asset. You got to buy an apartment building. You guys have done it with single and duplexes to accumulate a nice sized wealth and be able to not have full-time jobs. What's your thoughts on renting versus buying? Are there any pros to renting?
Any pros? Oh, I can't think of any. I'm not gonna lie. Because the main time when people say that, like renting over buying is good, is when they talk about it in the context of buying just a regular single family home to live in. In that
Mm,
aspect, it can become a liability where you're stuck in one place where you have this mortgage that you have to pay, even if you get fired from your job, even if you want to move around. But the fact is that if you rent, there's someone in my family right now that I talked to them. I was like, hey, they've been renting forever. And I was like, you thought about buying this house. So when are you gonna do? And they're like, I don't know if I'm gonna move to another state and this and that. And I told them they're basically locked into a specific deal that they could get from the house because they know the homeowner. I said, if you get this property at this rate, it doesn't matter if you want to move next month. I still suggest you buy that house because the amount that you can rent that house out for is double of what your mortgage would be. It's never gonna be, a house is just never going to be a burden if you do it the right way. So that's why I say it just literally like I don't know, it's never gonna be a bad way because I literally come across people all the time like this family that I know who they're struggling and they're struggling to pay their rent and they came across a lump sum of money, not a lump sum, but extra money that they weren't expecting. And they were like, okay, so I'm going to pay the rent up for this month and I'm going to put some extra money aside. That's what one of my tenants does. When she gets her bonuses, she sometimes pay for 2 months in advance. The good thing is that you don't have rent to pay for a couple months. But the bad thing is that you're never getting towards anything. You're never, the more you pay, if I got a lump sum of money, I can pay my mortgage down to where I'm closer to owning a house free and clear. Even if you have enough money to pay your house up for 1 year, the only thing that you get is a roof over your head for another year.
I've heard that discussion, Lex, and people say, what if I get sick? What if I lose my job? I'll lose my house. So here's the thing, and I've been through this. There's a thing called mortgage forbearance or deferment verbiage. Basically, it's when the bank gives you extra time to make the payments back. You could put it towards the end of the loan. They might skip 2 months or whatever have you. We work out a repayment plan. It is way harder to get assistance from your landlord for 6 months or a year of you not paying than the bank. And this from personal experience. So that argument is just not factual. Because in some states, you can get thrown out of your house in 60 days or 90 days without paying rent.
What? Dang, I didn't even know that. I did not even know that. And then to add on to your point is, I remember them doing that during the COVID, and they would contact us and let them know if we needed extra time to pay our mortgage. I never rented before, like ever. So I don't really know what it's like to have to pay a rent or be late on the rent. But I would imagine, and I know from other people going after the rent, like when you pay your mortgage, like for instance, there's sometimes where we have certain tenants that pay like on the 3rd, because that's when they get their money. There's sometimes I pay my mortgage on the 3rd. Nobody calls you to ask you where the mortgage payment's at, because you have a grace period of 15 days. If you pay it within that 15 days, nobody's calling you. You don't get any extra charge. You don't get any extra interest. If you got a landlord that you a couple days late on, they like, hey, when are you paying? When are you paying this? Yeah, I believe that to be true, and I agree with you.
Yeah. Oftentimes we let fear seep into us, and we think of, okay, I can't do this because X, Y, Z. We have to get over the fear and realize that there's always a risk involved. But I've heard very few people, Lex, ever say that they were mad they bought a house.
Exactly. And not just that, Dre, but a rental too. Rental, like at least a multifamily house, an investment property, because this stuff, just like you said, people's fear and then lack of knowledge, because a lot of these cases where there's a lot of people who are going into foreclosure right now during this time because they're losing their jobs. But guess what? I bet those people aren't people who have somebody else paying the rent for them. They're people who are paying their own rent with their one source of income from their own job. But there's some people like how we did who have somebody else paying it. So then if you lose your job, now you have time to go find another job without losing your house. So that's a whole different thing. People who don't know about the business often have their opinions that, people are going into, like one of my friends told me that she was like, my neighbor told me that they had to sell their house to keep from going into bankruptcy. And I'm like, it wasn't an investment property. That was the house that they paid with their own money from their own pocket. That's a completely different thing. That's completely different.
And let's say that they did have to sell. Maybe they walked away with some money.
Yep,
We
that's
don't know,
true.
right? Maybe they walked away with 20, 30 grand in an apartment. There's no walking away. So you're a happily married woman. Shout out to you. Let's just say you have a friend, you got a cousin, hits you up and says, I met this great guy. Let's say that your cousin makes 60, the guy makes 55, right? So they're both middle class. He's like, he can't afford to pay all the bills, but he's a great guy. What do you think I should do? What would you tell your cousin or friend?
He can't pay all the bills?
He can't pay all the bills, but he could pay a portion, though. He could pay half or a little more than half.
I don't even know why it's a discussion. I don't really believe it has to be whatever your values are. If you come into the relationship and you want somebody to just pay like all the bills, that has to be something that you have to consider, that you might be losing out on a lot of good men, like with that aspect. Because there's a lot of people who's selfish out there. There's some women who they want a man to pay all the bills, but they don't do no cooking. They don't do no cleaning. Like they want that. And the same with some men. They might want the woman to do all the cooking and the cleaning, but they don't make no money to pay no bills. Like you can't win. You can't win the whole. Just have to figure out what's best for you. For me, I would say is the person, if they're a good person and then they bring value, because if that's what you're waiting for all your life, you might miss out on a lot of good people and find somebody who might pay all the bills, but they also might be abusive. They also might. You just really gotta get yourself in line before you even come with a question like that. I would recommend you looking into yourself to see if you have any any issues within, because that shouldn't really be a problem to me. As long as this person is not a leech and like you don't have to pay everything to drag them along, then I don't really see an issue with it.
I agree. And I use a scenario for a couple of reasons. You and Derek are both working at a plant before, not making a ton of money, livable wage. And now you guys grew together, have assets, and now your lifestyle is fully funded or 99% funded by rental income. And it's just been literally under 7 years. So a
Yep.
lot of people, I think it's social media dictating a lot of these
Yeah.
conversations and people changing their views because it's on a podcast. And I say, look, it would be nice if you're a woman and you got to be able to pay for everything. But what if y'all just got to go 60, 40, 70, 30 for a few years? But now you could be in Africa for a quarter of the year.
Yeah.
You could do random trips. And it's just stacking, saving, and investing for a little while.
I know. I've literally heard stories like of some of the people that we look to, like people who are like millionaires right now, where they were going to accomplish the dream for a couple years and their wife was the only one that was working. But now they are millionaires, so they retired their wife from that job. And it was a lot of people who were looking at them like, what are you doing? What did your husband do? Oh, he don't work a job? Now he's a millionaire and they're a millionaire. They wouldn't have did that if he was working a little job wanting to make $40,000 just so people wouldn't talk bad about him.
You hit it on the head. Know what works for you. Social media will not help your relationship most times. Know
No.
what works for you. Lex, why real estate? If you have to give a one paragraph, why real estate investing?
So I would say real estate is one of those universal things that can work for everybody in every situation. Like I said in the video, and I say all the time, it doesn't matter if you want to be like us and not work. We're not just like talking or suggesting this to people who want to quit their job. Some people like their job, or some people want to go to retirement route. Guess what? If you don't want to work, this is good for you. And if you want to work, this is good for you, because if you're working a job, this is just extra money on top of your paycheck. And no one ever complained about extra money. Nobody ever said, where can I give this money back? Because it's too much coming in. So that, and the thing is, the ability for it to be passive in the way that we specifically do it. We're not flippers. We're not wholesalers. So we're not working constantly. We literally work less than an hour a week. And I'm only saying that hour because sometimes, like when we're getting like certain things done to the property, we might have a little bit more work, but on average, we literally don't do any work for the properties at all, like for months at a time. And so even if you're not passionate about it, even if you have other things that you want to do, you can achieve a full-on business that's hands-on. If you want to have a salon, if you want to have a barbershop, if you want to have a catering company, you can still do that with real estate. That's not with every business, because some businesses take your time and effort, and you can't have 3 different businesses where you need to be there 24/7 working on all of them. Real estate is so different the way that we do it, the buy and hold method, because it's passive. You make money in your sleep from wherever you are. So literally, this is just something that you have coming and you don't even have to think about it. So you can do whatever you want and you don't have to work that extra time to do it. And that's just crazy, because that's something that we will never get back is time. And that's what we need more of. And you're not going to get that trying to make more money working 2 and 3 jobs.
Ooh. Lex, how can people work with you if they need your roadmap, they want your assistance? I know you guys have a phenomenal formula to get great tenants and keep them. How can they work with you?
So in particular, like my husband, Derek, he posts a lot of stuff on his page. There's like a link tree through Derek Alford, and our program page is Real Freedom through realestate.com. That's where you could actually look at the program. And right now, actually, at this time in this video, I don't know how much it's going to be when you decide to make the move. But right now, it's actually on sale for 90% off, because at this time, we've really been seeing so many people struggle. So we had this program, but we like, man, if we could just, it's just people could just understand like how this could change their lives. So right now, for a limited time, it is lower cost. But if you go to Real Freedom through realestate.com, then you'll be able to see our program, and it'll walk you through step by step the exact system that we use, and most importantly, the system that we use to actually get good quality tenants, which is something that most people don't talk about, but we learn is the most important thing in this business that can really take you out of the game if you don't know how to do this. So that's what we really specialize on, and you can check us out there.
Lex, man, buying a house a year can change up your whole friggin' life. Proud of you guys. I'll put the link
Thank you.
below. I'll see you soon.
All right, see you, Dre.